Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Push it, keep pushing. Got to keep on pushing. Push it, keep pushing. Gotta keep on pushing. Push it, keep pushing. Ooh. Yeah. Push it, keep pushing.
Welcome to Blackwash History Podcast with Brittany Wilkins. As your host, I aim to explore and uncover Black history not commonly known. In doing so, it means sharing stories, movements, and those influential leaders of our generation and past generation who have advocated and worked tirelessly for diversity, equity, and inclusion for the African American race. More than 60 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and shared a vision of racial equality, justice, and unity. His "I Have a Dream" speech became a defining moment in the civil rights movement, inspiring generations to work toward a better future. Yet today, as we reflect on his words, we must ask, have we fully realized his dream, or are we still trapped in it? Dr. King dreamed of a nation where people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Yet today, many of the injustices he fought against continue to persist today. What do I mean? Well, let's start with the criminal justice system. Black Americans are incarcerated at 5 times the rate of white Americans. Police brutality remains a painful reality, with high-profile cases sparking national movements like those of the Black Lives Matter. These systemic issues mirror the injustices Dr. King marched against. His dream of justice still feels so distant for many. How can we not forget George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, and the many others who succumbed to the harsh terrors of what it means to be treated inhumane? But it just doesn't stop there at the justice system. It also, too, we see it within economic disparities. Dr. King spoke about economic justice, but yet the racial wealth gap is staggering. On average, Black families have only a fraction of the wealth that white families hold. I remember reading a report a couple years back about the disparity in wealth between racial groups in the United States. Did you know white households hold 80% of all wealth in the United States, while Black households held only about 4.7%. When it comes to home ownership, Black applicants are 1.8 times more likely to be denied for a mortgage than white applicants. I could go on, but I think you get the point. You see, things like this don't happen overnight. It's a result of decades of discriminatory practices like redlining, job discrimination, and unequal access to education. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon that we can use to change the world." Education is the pathway or bridge to opportunities. And being a product of public education school system, it was deeply unequal then, as it is even still today in many cases. Schools in predominantly Black and Latino neighborhoods often lack funding, resources, and support. What's the result? Limited access to quality education and fewer opportunities for advancement. Even with opportunities, Black students are still far behind than their white students or their counterparts when they leave K through 12, transitioning into college. Speaking from experience, I was one who almost failed out of engineering school as I could not keep up with my classmates in entry-level engineering courses that were so well advanced, but I was told I should already be there and I shouldn't be struggling within these courses. So much for 12 years of education. But from the economic disparities and the unequal education, this past November, what did we witness? Another presidential election. And while we now have the right to vote, King worked hard for voter rights, as well as so many others did. But we cannot ignore that even still today, voter suppression persists. The laws and mechanisms instituted to suppress voter rights continue to be a threat to the very democracy he sought to strengthen. And when voices are silenced, so is progress. Now, it could be easy to feel discouraged with all I just mentioned. But Dr. King's dream wasn't just about hope. It really was a call to action. I truly believe change is possible when we demand justice, support, and equitable policies and commit to dismantling systemic racism. Progress has been made, but the work is still so far from over. So let's not just acknowledge Dr. King for the great leader he was, but today and every day, let's keep his dream alive through service. So what can we do? I believe it all begins with and is built upon education, educating ourselves. Secondly, I believe in choosing your battles wisely, but speak out against those injustices. More importantly, support leaders and policies that promote equity. And it's all about community, unity, coming together, embracing the principles of Kwanzaa. And how can we come together in our communities and help us support? It's by volunteering in our communities and filling in the gaps where necessary. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to strive for progress. One way you can support is by supporting this podcast, the Black-Washed History Podcast, and in sharing those episodes, many of the episodes, with those in your community to begin to educate on Black history that we are being withheld from learning and being taught. Remember, the dream, it isn't dead. It's waiting for us to wake up and make it real. So thank you for joining me today. And if you found this episode meaningful, share it with a friend, leave a review, continue the conversation. Together we can move closer to fulfilling Dr. King's dream. Until the next time, stay inspired and stay committed.